Here is a new blind item that is allegedly about Diddy and a church that he was involved with that trafficked humans and substances. Speaking of longtime confirmations, the church, the Trinity Church, and their leaders are about to be exposed because one of the shell companies they created lent out private jets to this mogul and rapper used to move people and substances. And again, this is allegedly the Trinity Church and Sean Diddy Combs. Let's take a look at some related blind items from 2017 and 2019. This one is from December of 2017 and it is called The Church. One thing up front, the church I'm referring to is not Scientology. This is a church that was founded just a couple of years ago in northern Arizona. Why this particular location? It is remote for sure, which helps. They learned in the past that it helps to be remote. They also learned in the past that it helps if they can attach themselves to another established church or religion. They got that in this northern Arizona town too. What they also got though are three things they treasure most of all. Number one was the built-in security from the other very secretive religion in the area throughout the town, which was very open to the idea when they saw the very large check. Number two, they had the ability to integrate hundreds of children into a community that seemingly had nothing but endless supplies of children. Finally, they were coming to a community where no one looks down on anyone who hooks up with teens and tweens. The people who founded the church like to say it's their version of the Trinity, a pretty sick one. Originally, when they tried to do this in a northern part of the country, it didn't work out well. There were too many competing interests. You had one group of people who were trafficking kids, but another group who was interested in trafficking women for adult work. You also had a group who was trying to do good and everything intersected and it was a horrible mess. They learned their lessons and waited until everything was in place. The church is a nonprofit and their biggest donor is a shell company, which is part of another shell company, which is owned by the same A-plus list mogul we have seen time and time again in all of these stories. This is where things get a little interesting. Because of the racial makeup in the community and wanting to make sure everyone blends in, they had to get the tweens and teens from Europe. Specifically, they found some orphanages in Eastern Europe. How did they get them all into the country? Well, every church needs religious workers. The church hired 20 quote-unquote pastors and got them in as special immigrant religious workers. Each of these quote-unquote pastors had between 4 and 6 children they brought in with them, and of course their wives, many of whom had their own children too. Of course, none of these pastors or wives really had any kids they brought, but almost overnight, what these people have created is a fully functioning, safe from prying eyes place where these kids are being abused. Apparently, much like their protectors, they want to ensure a never-ending supply by having the teens get pregnant as often as possible. You might wonder what all of this has in connection to Hollywood. Well, first of all, the financing, of course, all comes from our A-plus list mogul. Allegedly Diddy. There is one very important other thing. Have you wondered why every male celebrity over the past couple of years goes to a rehab facility in Arizona, but you never see any photos of the rehab facility or them in the rehab facility? Have you wondered why no female celebrity has ever gone to this facility? Have you ever wondered why the men who go to this facility seemingly always stay longer than a normal 30-day rehab and often seem to go back every few months for follow-up treatment? Have you ever wondered why all of these male celebrities seem to be the ones with the longest histories of sexual indiscretions? When they don't mention Arizona, they will say they're going to an undisclosed location. Well, apparently all of these guys like going to the same location and the flow never stops. It's not just celebrities. There have been a surge of high-paid executives and others that have suddenly decided this rehab place is the one that they need to go to. They have figured out a way for them to go to quote-unquote rehab and get quote-unquote better so the world will forgive them and let them get back to making a lot of money. This next blind item is from April of 2019, and it's called a church blind item. While doing some research for an upcoming podcast episode, I had the chance to talk to someone who recently fled from this very well-known cult. The person who fled is an offspring of someone I am going to call the liaison. The liaison acts as a middleman between the cult and the church. In the past, I have written extensively about some of the human trafficking that the church does and how it goes about it. The problem they have encountered with their process is the sheer volume of people which need to be paid off or made at least aware of one part of the operation. Because there is a finite supply of people, they are always looking to enter new markets, which requires installing an entire infrastructure of people on the payroll people, from the finders to the workers in government offices. Also, no matter where they extended, they were always saying no to their most requested type: blonde hair and blue eyes. From days gone by and old books and movies, everyone has heard of the white slave trade. Don't send your daughters overseas or they will be kidnapped and sold on the white slave market. Mostly a myth, but it is still a big request. Previously, the church used primarily Eastern Europeans in this role. The problem is none of them were voluntarily there and spent most of their time trying to escape, and were only compliant to their owners through substances or beatings. Not exactly the type of relationship most of the owners were envisioning. They wanted submissive, compliant teens to young adults who would spend more time pleasing and less time trying to escape or being beaten. Because of the location of their headquarters, the church has always semi-shared security with this cult. It made sense, and both sides agreed the more area controlled, the less chance of outsiders interfering. The cult has been hurting financially the past few years and needed a new revenue stream. They approached the church about some smuggling, and that eventually led to human trafficking. The cult had a product that was high grade with worldwide demand, a seemingly endless supply of blonde hair, blue-eyed females and young adults. They also solved another problem because they are compliant and submissive and will do what they are ordered to do. It was about this same time that the leader of the cult changed the rules. No longer would there be any new marriages, which would take prospective dollars away from the cult. Now there would be more teens and young adults available to traffic. The only way was how to get them where they needed to be. Well, the easy part were passports, because unlike kidnapped children, no one needed to be bought off to get the passport. The second great thing is that the cult has compounds all over the US and the world, and no one thinks twice when young women are sent to one of these compounds to repent. They also don't expect the young women to stay in touch or be able to communicate because they are repenting. No one will go looking for them because they don't want to disobey the cult leader. Finally, the young women are told it is a direct order of the leader, so they do what they are told and join the person who bought them voluntarily. It is a master stroke of human trafficking, and also massively profitable, to the tune of low six figures per teen.